Thomas Edison produced the first biopic, Execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, way back in 1895. Truly a riveting 20 seconds. George Méliès proved the genre could set the world on fire in 1900 with Jeanne d'Arc. At some point, they realized not every biographical film had to be about a famous woman being publicly executed. In 1927, the jazz singer added synchronized sound with the moving pictures. It also laid out the broad strokes of what would later become the music biopic. Thankfully, all the, blackface didn't stick around for long.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Over the last 95 years, they've made a lot of biographical films, often to commercial and critical success. Biopics about musicians are especially popular. It's essentially a safe bet for a studio. The soundtrack is made up entirely of proven, popular songs, and audiences that don't typically pay to watch characters spontaneously break into song and dance don't seem to realize they're actually paying to see musicals. Regardless of whether the film is about a famous politician, activist, criminal, business person, criminal business person, artist, or performer, they all have one thing in common. They're filled with propaganda, exaggerations, scandal, and outright lies. The biopic is a genre ripe for mockery. And who better to poke fun at the film industry's misrepresentation of history for the sake of dramatic interpretation? To explore the very meaning of exploitation? To make us question why we prefer the made-up legend over real-world struggles? To plunge into the depths of human depravity in the pursuit of art? To answer the essential question of why we tell the stories we do? Then the man who's built his legacy poking fun at pop culture for 40 years. Who better than Weird Al Yankovic?
Eat it.
In 2010, Eric Appel was a head writer for Funny or Die, an online video enterprise launched by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. He'd just done a trailer for an imaginary film that crossed Willy Wonka with the Saw franchise. He was inspired by the recent Biggie Smalls biopic, notoriously indulged in inaccuracies about the life of Christopher Wallace. What if they took that to the next level, choosing a living celebrity and making a trailer that's an obvious fabrication? Appel decided the famously nice and scandal-absent Weird Al would be a perfect fit. So we asked Patton Oswalt to ask Al if he'd be okay with it. Moments later, Al is both giving his blessing and asking if he can be involved. By that evening, Appel was meeting Al for the first time and brainstorming ideas. Starring Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul, the trailer also features Olivia Wilde as Madonna, Patton Oswalt as Dr. Demento, Gary Cole as Al's father, Nick, and Academy Award winner Mary Steenburgen as Al's mother, Mary. For years, it played at Weird Al concerts, and people began demanding to see the film. Al and Eric were content with what it was, a sketch that milked the joke for less than 3 minutes. Even though Aaron Paul and Olivia Wilde expressed interest, there were too many doubts as to how they could sustain the joke for an hour and a half. Then, in 2019, Al sent Appel an email that cryptically said, "It's time." While other studios rejected the project, Roku saw potential. A streaming service has very little to lose issuing a micro-budget to a star with a built-in fan base. Little did they know it would become a festival darling and get the Toronto International Film Festival's coveted Audience Choice Award, beside Steven Spielberg's own semi-autobiographical film, The Fabelmans. The trepidation is understandable. Eric Appel is known for web videos and TV episodes. He was going into this project with zero feature film experience, and Al's first film, UHF, might be considered a cult classic today, but it was a disappointment at release. After it screen tested higher than any other film in Orion's history, the studio thought they had a bona fide hit on their hands. Before release, offers were made for a multi-picture deal, but Al's longtime manager, Jay Levy, who also co-wrote, directed, and played Gandhi in the film, thought it would be wise to wait until the box office receipts came in. Unfortunately, when they did, prospects vanished. You try competing with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Lethal Weapon 2, License to Kill, When Harry Met Sally, Do the Right Thing, and Batman. Oh, and Weekend at Bernie's. After impressing with stunning performances of offbeat music...
Tom Lehrer, in my opinion, is the cleverest and funniest man of the 20th century, and he's kind of my hero. There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and uranium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and anthium, and osmium, and acetine, and radium, and golden protactinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium.
Black Alicious' alphabet aerobics.
That would be one.
Perfected poem, powerful punchlines, pummeling petty powder puffs in my prime. Quite quotes, keep quiet, it's quantum. Coral isn't got a quart of water, we gotta.
Daniel Radcliffe was cast as a bizarro Weird Al. Rainn Wilson is part Dr. Demento and part Jack Horner from Boogie Nights. And Evan Rachel Wood plays Madonna as though she were a sociopathic Bond villain. Other standout performances include Toby Huss and Julian Nicholson as Al's parents, Richard Aaron Anderson and David Bloom as young and teenage Al, and Spencer Treat Clark, Jack Lancaster, and Tommy O'Brien as the band. I mean, there are so many others to discuss, but not until you've had a chance to see the movie. 2 fun facts. Aaron Paul had a planned cameo in the film, but on the scheduled day, he tested positive for COVID. Patton Oswalt was meant to reprise his role as Dr. Demento, but he broke his foot 2 weeks before shooting began. Rainn Wilson got an email from Al on Thursday asking what he was doing on Monday. He got the part on Saturday, and on Monday morning, they were filming one of his biggest scenes. Weird the Al Yankovic Story has a singular storytelling style. Comparisons to Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story, or A Futile and Stupid Gesture are fine, but neither has the right vibe. There's evidence of both Al's music video roots and Appel's web short experience, but this is a far more cinematic experience. This is a competent movie with a more engaging story than UHF. This isn't a relentless gagorama, at least not from the onset, and though the world of the film seems birthed from Mel Brooks and the Zucker brothers, it's populated by Oscar-caliber actors giving grounded, heartbreaking performances. Perhaps the best comparison might be Drunk History the movie, if that existed. But there's no one burping, puking, or passing out. It's just a reckless disregard for history with wry, clever, often silly humor. In terms of Al's career, the best I can offer is the unfortunate return of the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour. The concert series first appeared in 2018 and made its return for the 6 months leading up to the film's release. And in some ways, the concept is similar. What isn't comparable is the fact in the live shows, Al plays none of the parodies, just deep cuts, B-sides, and rarities. There are no costume changes, videos, or elaborate set pieces. But what is in the same spirit is what you get in exchange. Intimacy, a surprise set list, Al's take on someone else's songs, and an entry point into his unfiltered, uncut comedy sensibilities. It's a showcase of his vocal talent and the band's versatility and musicianship. Most importantly, instead of pandering to a large crowd of fly-by-nights, these shows are handcrafted for the fans. It isn't for everyone, and nothing worthwhile ever tries to be. The film plays best in a theater packed with superfans. Our pre-existing knowledge of Yankovic's life, expertise so trivial and sweeping as to be a little scary, enhances the experience. Our knowledge of the deep cuts brings out the texture and flavor of every punchline. At the same time, a viewer with little to no understanding, but a good sense of humor and a willingness to laugh, will likely like what they see. Just don't be put off by the stunt casting and cameos. Those people are there because they love Al and will do anything for him. Let go of your rational mind, expectations, and need to fact check. Just sit in the dark, let this movie wash over you, and engage in childlike wonder and playfulness. You're going to have an incredible time. This is every phase of Al, firing off on all cylinders. Radcliffe is playing the Al of the 80s and 90s, stacked atop the demented prodigy and infused with the humor of the elder statesman. It's a punk rock satire that puts cigarettes out on the face of pop culture, and I loved every second of it. Okay, so maybe you want some context for Al's actual life before you see the film, or maybe you've seen it and want someone to separate fact from fiction. Don't sweat it. I've been preparing my whole life for this moment. I'm about to tell you just who Weird Al Yankovic really is. I'll be back next week, the day after Al's 63rd birthday, with part 2, the true story of his life. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to thank the people who made this video possible. Summer Woods for providing Weird Al Piano Medley 1 from her tribute album, Chihuahua Hat, and Chad Kelson, aka Metal Al, for his metal cover of Fun Zone from his album, Into the Abyss. You can find links to their music in the description. Special thanks to Ethan Ullman of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast for listening to and fact-checking the script, and to my lovely Stella for helping me get through recording the audio bits and putting up with me while I edited the video bits. All right, see you next time. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. It's ridiculous.